Welcome to another episode of the BlueSky Brothers. The Broncos did dumb things. The Nuggets did smart things. Are we stuck in Groundhog Day? Dan, play that funky music. It is beautiful here in a land of clean water. Not that dirty tap water that they tried to feed Jamal Murray to bring him down, but nothing would keep the Nuggets away from 3-0 victory. The Broncos got their man in Bo Nix. Ryan, it's been a whirlwind. We're broadcasting during the Avs game, which is inevitably going to lead to some guttural sounds during this podcast, but we've decided to risk it for the listeners. So the Avs are currently losing 2-1 at home. So just to give the listeners an insight into our process. But Ryan, how does this whirlwind of 2 days find you?
Yeah, it's been fun sports. Nothing really to complain about. I think, there's lots to complain about, and I think I will throughout the podcast. But there are lots of interesting things going on, which is always exciting. This is sort of it's like the death rattle of the sports season. It's the last time where you have really all sports operating on a real level until really September. So enjoy it while it lasts, people, because outside of the Olympics, it's going to be a quiet summer.
Yes, absolutely. Important to be appreciative that at least we had a lot going on, right? Some good, some bad. So I wanted to start with the Broncos draft. The people on this podcast know how I feel about Bo Nix. They know how Ryan feels about Bo Nix.
You were not high on Bo Nix.
Bo Nix is 2 months younger than Zach Wilson.
We got two vets in the room. We got two vets in the room. We have the oldest quarterback room in the AFC West. What's not to be excited about?
When you're right, you're right. But I'm curious, I guess, were you swayed at all? I saw a lot of media personalities talking about, after listening to Sean Payton about seeing some stuff, they really do like the pick. And if you like the guy, go get your guy.
I said that.
Talking about.
I said that on the last podcast. Week. I said, if you like the guy, go get your guy.
Rate your excitement here on a scale of 1 to 10. My excitement is at a 2.
Tell me what excitement means. Like, I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for the next 5 years.
For the Bo Nix era. You think that this draft pick will be a meaningful moment in the Broncos franchise in a positive way?
There is no Bo Nix era. This is a fraud. There is nothing resembling a Bo Nix era. This is you're right to frame it that way because we just spent top 15 pick on him and it's quarterback, so it's a value position, and you're right to frame it that way, but that is not what's going to happen. Bo Nix does not have the talent to make that happen. So I'm disappointed. I feel very strongly in my heart of hearts as a person who watches football that I'm right on this. I'm also willing to be wrong. I kind of hope I am.
I'd be thrilled to be wrong.
I kind of hope I am. I feel like I'm going to get attacked on this like Dave Chappelle was attacked when he went on Saturday Night Live after Trump was elected and said, I'm going to give him a chance. I feel like Dave Chappelle in that moment where he was like, I'm going to give him a chance. And then 30 seconds later, Trump did something wild, and Chappelle was like, all right, well, I tried. That's how I'm going to treat the Bo Nix era of Broncos football. Like, the second he throws some crazy, inaccurate ball downfield, I'm going to be like, well, He was protected, and people hated him at Auburn. And then he went to the college that I probably hate the most in my heart of hearts. Like, I'm really struggling to come back on the bandwagon. You know, we've been through the Russell Wilson
debacle.
debacle.
Out of practice, Ryan. But come on in, buddy.
No,
Bring it in.
I don't want to.
But
I don't want to. I want to go back to Tua.
Dan. No, that's not allowed. We negotiated with terrorists, and we got Russell Wilson out of town. Me and Dan specifically, we got him out of town so that we could have you back. You said you'd be back. There was no Bo Nix clause. There was none of that. You're back.
There should have been an Oregon clause. It's not even
well,
Bo Nix, although we have to say something about his hairstyle. We have to. I mean, that does not inspire confidence. What you're doing with that hair,
like Freddie Prinze Jr.,
dude. This, like, where is this guy from? Where has he been? I mean, Eugene. Clearly, he's been in Eugene, and the Eugene has taken hold of Bo Nix, and that is not a good thing. That's not a compliment. That's not something you want in a franchise quarterback. Nobody wants any part of Eugene on them ever. So, just be careful out there, I think. And I don't mean this
are wild. It's not good. But
there's so much gel, Kyle.
Yeah.
He means to do it. He means to do it. It's not like he takes off a hat.
No.
It's not frazzled. Choice. It's like he spends a lot of time. Yeah. It's time could be spent watching film or working on his arm strength.
Yeah, I'm concerned, but a man who texted us as we were preparing for the show and said, "You know what? I'm going to choose happiness. I love Bo Nix." You know, he went so far as to say "dicks for Nix." He went right in there.
He also is still giving Trump a chance. He's still giving Trump a chance.
Yeah, he's been consistent. Dan, we wanted to bring you on here because we knew we were going to be naysaying, kind of negative Nancy's. We wanted to provide time for the other side. What has given you hope? Was it the Sean Payton press conference? Was it Bo Nix's availability today? Because Sean really put on the full court press. That guy, anyone who would put a mic in front of him, he was telling him what a genius he is and how good Bo Nix is. This is a big swing here, Dan. But you've decided to find joy in it.
He was comparing it to when the Chiefs swooped in and took Patrick Mahomes. That's how he feels about Bo Nix. So I guess tell us more about how you and your friend Sean are feeling about this.
Yeah.
Look, I was big on Penix. That's who I wanted. I need bigger Penix in my life. But he went to the Falcons for reasons unknown.
They're going to convert him to tight end.
Bo, but like we knew this was going to happen from the beginning. He's been the betting favorite for like a month for the Broncos. Like, I don't know who was blindsided by this. I won a bunch of money because I bet on it. Like, we knew it was going to be Bo. We've been miserable since 2016, right? Miserable. Why choose? Like, we just got rid of Russ, who made us more miserable. Like, why choose misery? No one knows how these draft picks are going to work. No one does. I don't think anybody is really good at picking these people. None of these guys could work out.
These are the words of a truly broken man.
Yeah,
and you have to respect it.
Why choose misery? Why choose misery?
This is Broncos Nation at its core right now. It's just like, well, I mean, we all know it's going to be bad, but I'm going to choose to be optimistic about
Until
it.
I see this guy be worse than any other quarterback we've had in the last few years. It can't get worse.
Vic Lombardi's going to go on the radio tomorrow and be like, I actually think we have John Elway and Patrick Mahomes. If they were together.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's silly.
Okay, Dan, here's my only problem with your theory. If I knew that Ryan, a month from now, was going to ring your doorbell, and the moment you answered it, he was going to punch you in the dick as hard as he could. And I had this information, Dan. Wouldn't you want me to tell you that Ryan was coming to punch you in the dick in a month? And wouldn't you think I would be a bad friend if I said nothing to you and just allowed your genitals to get rocked by an uppercut from Ryan, putting your testicles inside of your body in an uncomfortable and frankly disturbing way?
Yeah, but you don't know that he's coming to punch me in the nuts. You can't
I know.
tell me that. Like, you don't know 100%. This guy could be Trevor Siemian. Okay, terrible, but not like anything worse we've had.
If he was Trevor Siemian, that would be exceeding my expectations. Like, that would be great.
Siemian guy.
Stop it.
Oh,
Stop it.
That would
hold on.
That would be unreal. Remember when they did that interview?
Okay, hold on,
Trevor
Kyle.
Siemian to Brady before Monday night.
Yeah, I do
because
remember
we were like
that.
3-1 or something.
I do remember that. But let's get realistic about this, okay? So we haven't, okay? We're not going to turn back time. Unfortunately, Sean Payton's neck can't take back what he said on the Pat McAfee show.
Let's just pause there. It was a rough-looking intervio.
Oh
and
my
someone
God.
from the Broncos should have stepped in. That's how you know
Who let
Sean
him
has grown
answer
too
that
powerful.
call on his iPhone? What are we doing? Everybody
That's what I'm
else
saying.
is like actually has a conference call room. I mean,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's get to it then, Kyle. You brought up power. So let's talk about who
Yes.
made this pick. Let's talk about who we get to blame if this goes poorly.
Sean Payton made this pick 100%. Everything George Payton did leading up to this was like, we don't have to force it. Here, I've taken Zach Wilson. You know, please, God, don't waste this pick on this 50-year-old man out of who flunked out of the SEC and then went to community college in Eugene and lit it up. It's, yeah. So I think Sean Payton 100% loved Bo Nix. All the reports were out there. He put it out there. He continued to really do all the press, right? Like for it. George Payton wasn't as vocal as he has been in the previous ones.
I literally just
I think
Googled.
this is definitely a Sean Payton laid his penis across George Payton's forehead.
I just Googled to see if George Payton had said anything. Like, I can't even find a quote from him after the draft. This guy got absolutely John Elway'd. He is sitting in a booth in Elway's Steakhouse, not doing a single thing. I mean, John Elway was a figurehead for that entire time. And honestly, the Penner family just seems too proud to say that they made a mistake and they had a little bit of new owner syndrome and they just couldn't quite figure out who to make the general manager, and they liked what the Vikings were doing and they thought that we were going to get Aaron Rodgers and all these things. So that's all fine. You know, it's all fine. You're absolutely correct though, that this rests with Sean Payton and his neck. And we can't let the latter half of that get off scot-free, because honestly, I think there's something that has taken over him. This is not the Sean Payton that we saw in that wonderful Disney film. This is a different man, and I think we have to get to the bottom of it. And I think the bottom of it begins right here.
I think there's more Sean Payton from the Disney film than when I saw him on the Saints, I'll tell you that. This current Sean Payton could eat that Sean Payton. It wouldn't even be full.
He actually looks like a tire. He looks like he's carrying around a tire. It's incredible. Like, I've never seen anybody gain weight in that specific way. I mean, honestly, Michelin needs to consider a sponsorship. I know that they have the 5s or the stars for restaurants. Like, I think there's an obvious collaboration. He could wear a tire in. He could sit at the nice restaurant, have his meal, It'd be a wonderful thing. And honestly, when you can see more than his neck, he seems like a relatively interesting person to talk to. So I think it would be a nice show. It'd sort of be like a Peyton's Places, You could even name it Peyton's Places. It could be on the Omaha network. But I'd do anything to have him.
Too much right now.
I'd do anything to not have him coach this team. I think he's just one of the most unlikable people in Denver right now. The smugness of this man is truly just
unreal.
It's like
it
listen,
makes me think back on it like when the Saints were good, and I was like, did I just never listen to a Saints press conference? Like, did he become this way? What's going on?
Sometimes I think the Saints probably feel this way too, where it's like you all just didn't realize what we were having to deal with because we're like kind of a mid-market to everybody else. Like everybody in New Orleans really cares about the Saints. Everybody in Denver really cares about the Saints, but it's not like you're watching a Sean Payton, a Saints press conference that often. When they won that Super Bowl, it was all about Breeze, not Breeze. No, Breeze?
Yeah, Breeze.
Yeah.
Well, and he had Katrina. He had pretty likable things too.
And those teams were super likable. I always loved those Saints because they just aired it out. It was fun. But yeah,
not likable here. I think we can all agree on that.
No, I think again, his neck is not likable. I'm not sure about the human being. I think we have to just get to the bottom of the neck, and then we'll figure out what's wrong with Sean Payton.
Just honestly terrible work from the Broncos PR team. Like, someone's got to be like, hey, you're going to go on this with what? I'm just going to hold it. You're an old man.
Underneath your jaw? You're going to hold it underneath your jaw?
But that's an old person thing to do.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like, that's just...
It's like a grandpa talking on FaceTime. It's likable if it wasn't the person who's in charge of your football team.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you should have seen what Grandpa did. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. Grandpa on the FaceTime at Christmas, his jowls. Like, we would be endlessly making fun of it.
Dad is still in high school and just keeps drafting him to play quarterback.
Yeah. John's in the corner, Grandpa. Like, I'm actually in charge.
Let's go.
Valerie Chuskin just
Producer
scored.
Dan updating you. We just have a 3-2 victory. Not a victory, but a lead for the Avs. But it's going to be a victory. It's fine.
I think. But anyway, I think that the power structure in that franchise is screwed up, and I think that they wasted an opportunity here. I think the more hindsight being 2020. Okay, so we drafted this edge from, I think, Utah on day 2, who seems like he's kind of athletic and meant to sort of keep up with the AFC West, right? Like, that makes sense. That's a draft pick that I don't know anything about this player. Like, I'm not watching Utah football. Nobody is watching Utah football. But if he's good, that's great. It seems like a need. It was definitely a need, and it seems like the type of player that you would want in a spot where you're in the division with Patrick Mahomes. That's fine. But hindsight being 2020, to not trade out of this pick seems like just a massive miss. And I think true hindsight being 2020, you would have done it before the draft and tried to bait the Raiders or somebody into thinking that they could have got Penix at 11 and just pick up a boatload of second round picks, because you need talent on this team. Like, you need offensive linemen, you need these things, and it doesn't matter. You should suck with whoever, Stidham at quarterback. If Sean Payton actually believes that there was no problem in the quarterback room before this, then there was no problem. So go with Stidham. What are we talking about? It seems incompetent in just all the more wrong ways. It seems like he has an incredible pro day and Sean Payton got a boner. And unfortunately, the tire did not slow that boner down. It went straight to his brain.
So anyway, we're going to give the Broncos draft a B+ overall. The third round pick, you're right that the position sounds good, athleticism sounds good. I'm gonna reserve judgment not until the actual season or anything like that, until training camp. If he fights Garrett Bowles immediately upon getting there and is like, "You're a disgrace to Utah, you corny goofball," then automatic A from me. Will love him as a player and
I didn't even know they went to the same school.
That, D, because then he might like Garrett Bowles, and we can't have two of them.
I think Garrett Bowles is probably in our draft room. Now that I know that they're from the same school, I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett Bowles pulled the trigger on that pick. There's nothing that would surprise me with this franchise.
You know who's number 2 in my Broncos power ranking here? Tony Scheffler. The ex-tight end who announced the Broncos pick. Number 1 came out in a sweet jacket. Number 2 called to put Mike Shanahan in the Hall of Fame. And then was just the most Bronco of Broncos out there. And looked cool. Had kind of a little half mullet thing going on. It was awesome. So I want him involved with the franchise in some way, in whatever role he'll take, honestly. I'd be like, you can have whoever's job you want.
I'd be directing him at Sean's, honestly. You can coach the team, Tony. It seems like you're a pretty chill guy. Honestly, what is coaching at this point? If Mike McDaniel is really a genius, he's basically playing Madden and seems like a cool guy to hang out with. So, I feel like I'm qualified then. I'd have to brush up on my Madden, to be fair. But I think I could be fine in an NFL locker room. I'd just be like, yeah, man, you guys are really cool and big and strong. You should do more of that. Be cool and big and strong and really believe in yourself, guys. That sounds good. Offensive coordinators, you got this? Yep, coordinators. I don't know jack shit about football, but just here to be vibes coordinator. I think that's all head coaching is, really.
You're the Ted Lasso of the NFL.
Yes,
limited
exactly.
Game knowledge, but just great vibes.
I actually did have a moment like this. Well, if we want a little Ryan story time, I did have a moment like this when I was working at a university for a soccer team, and they left an assistant coach at home and took me on the trip, mostly as the logistics guy. I was picking up food and doing all those sorts of things, but we were at this shared workspace, and their game planning, all right, good job. Their game planning, they just played Stanford and they were about to play Cal, and I'm watching the games. I played some soccer growing up. We were pretty decent soccer players growing up. I know what's going on in a game, and they're just sort of shooting the shit, and one of the assistant coaches looks at me and goes, "Ryan, what would you do?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you, I've been thinking about it all day." And I was basically just like, I'm going to play it like I'm going to play FIFA. I'm going to put my fastest guy on the outside. I'm going to run at that defender and just tire him out. I'm going to be playing deep balls. I'm going to be playing diagonals. I'm going to be playing chip shots. I'm just going to run that person to death. But I really do think that at a certain point, you can't command a room like Sean Payton and be good at the job. You can't be not throwing out wild ideas and receptive to change. You can't be stuck in the mud and also seem like kind of an asshole. It's just not a very good strategy. And to be a smug asshole is particularly not a good strategy. So I'm
to be a losing head coach who's a smug asshole. It'd be one thing if we went 12-5 last year. It'd be like, dude, you should talk a bunch of shit. Like, that's unbelievable. You kind of called your shot. You made fun of the previous coach and then went out there and crushed. But
well, one of the talking points I heard today,
flawless season.
No. And one of the talking points I heard today was about how it's like, oh, he's got somebody he can believe in now. Like, I don't care if you believe in him. It is your job to make that person better and to optimize whatever they are. Like, this is not the Sean Payton show. Like, this is the Denver Broncos at the end of the day. So you have to work within the bounds of what you're given. And unfortunately, like, nobody, including me, obviously, I'm not defending Russell Wilson in any way, but it was clear that Sean had given up on him. Like, he wasn't even trying to scheme him to be successful. So I think it's a very frustrating time to be a Broncos fan yet again.
Yeah. Welcome aboard. Dan and I will fill you in on the how to hype yourself up during the off season. It's the best part of the fandom, honestly, is talking yourself into Broncos talent. We'll show you some of the finer points.
I've been moving, and I went through some of my cards today, and I found a couple of the Surtain rookie cards that I invested in early, and I was like, man, I'm so excited about these. So, yeah, it's all right. I'm also going to be putting up a Super Bowl champions poster in my office from the 1998 win over Green Bay. So
Shannon Sharp, it's featured prominently.
Yeah. He's center. And John Elway is right above him. So, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Speaking of a beautiful thing, let's move on to the Nuggets.
Let's do it.
The Nuggets are up 3-0 on the Lakers. Last night, I was watching Game 3 in my living room. My wife had just gotten home from a work trip and was sitting there clearly communicating that she was a little bit tired and would not mind going upstairs early. It was at this point that Michael Porter hit the step back over Anthony Davis, and I just started laughing in our living room because the Lakers were trying so hard. We rested Jokic, and they were like, we'll play LeBron and AD through. Like, clearly being like, hey, we're going to get this 10-point lead down. Like, we're going to gain ground here and then, hopefully put pressure on for him to come in early or something like that. And then they just lost ground.
Dude, I forgot that Jokic wasn't in the game. It slipped my mind. When he came back in the game, I had the same laughing moment as when when MPJ hit the step back. He came back in the game, I was like, oh no, I thought he was out there this whole time. You guys are so screwed. Like, this is done. So yeah, it was a fun game.
So my biggest takeaway from this series is that I still think that sometimes the Nuggets are a little reluctant to take low-hanging fruit as far as teams are obviously doubling and trying to do things to take away Jokic in the post. Everyone doubles Jokic. But they still double you. And like in the first half, there was one time the Lakers just came a little early or something. And then it was, KCP just gets to walk into a wide open three off a kick out. Like, or, you just force so many rotations and so many things to go right that it just feels like a pretty obvious way to start your offense. And too often, the Nuggets have had him in different places. Do you think that's something that's this matchup specific, or with potentially Minnesota coming? is that something that concerns you? That the Nuggets are going to get kind of too cute in staying away from the Jokic post-ups because it doesn't like get you direct points with Jokic?
Okay, so I think there's two separate questions. I think it is somewhat matchup dependent. I think AD, they're just going to double him immediately. So I think that changes the way you play the post. And I think Jokic knows that we're best when the ball is in his hands. So he wants to stay out of the post a little bit to avoid the easy double and make them hard double onto him and sort of just make that that's my impression at least. I watch every game, but who knows? So I think but I am worried about that in the Minnesota series. I think Jokic is going to have to take over a series like that. I don't think that MPJ is a problem for them because they don't really have anybody tall enough. But MPJ is a problem for everybody. But I don't think we can rely on him like he's been playing, and I don't think we could rely on Aaron Gordon in the same way with Rudy Gobert at the rim. I think Minnesota is a very tough matchup for the Nuggets, and I think I'm hoping that the Suns can sort of give them a little bit of an issue, but it doesn't necessarily seem like they're going to be putting up much of a roadblock at this point. So I think the Nuggets are going to be looking at the Timberwolves. I do want to rewind a little bit because we haven't talked since game 2. I want to know how you consumed that shot.
It was at home, in my bed, alone, on my phone, the way God intended it. And then I have since consumed it about 1 million times. So for those who don't know, Ryan and I do have season tickets. I couldn't go. Wife was out of town. Single parent in it. And so Ryan was at the game. And for a long portion, I was like, thank God I didn't go to this game. Like, I'd have been so pissed the whole time. But instead missed out on a seminal Nuggets playoff memory. But
honestly, though,
yeah, I was gonna unreal moment.
You stole my thunder a little bit because I was gonna say it was just a brutal game to watch. Like, both of those teams were trying to lose actively, and it was just tough for most of the game. And when that comeback started happening, I was like, oh, we're winning this game. And even in the moment, it was a little bit, I will say, I don't think we've been in some big moments in that arena. We've seen some huge shots. I still think that the Embiid Sixers game winner, essentially, over Embiid, is probably the biggest pop in the arena I've ever heard live. But I think that this is second. And the just sheer joy of it's the Lakers too it's perfect. And, part of me hopes that we sweep them. Part of me hopes that we lose this next game so I can sell my game 5 ticket. But because we're definitely winning in 5. There's no way. The body language of these Lakers are so dejected. Like that.
Did you see that they listed AD as questionable with a left wrist sprain for Game 4? LeBron is probable with tendonitis, but they want you to know he's injured, and AD's been playing through it too. So it's just. Two heroes.
I can't wait for Jokic's first act of his top 3 NBA career ever. being retiring LeBron James. Just you just literally couldn't beat me. So sorry, buddy, but have fun in Cancun.
Yeah, this is it's not a divisional team that we've retired, which the Nuggets have retired the Jazz, the Blazers with Lillard. We've taken out some conference foes along the way.
I was literally there when we retired the Blazers. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. It was awesome.
And but so it's not divisional, but it does feel very personal still, with all the history with the Lakers and how many times they've just kind of big brothered the Nuggets.
I haven't even told you about this.
They can't bring this team back.
No, they can't. But I
do
have a little.
You want anything but to live in LA, you can't re-sign with the Lakers now.
No. We do need to pause this because I do have a crazy little story time from the game. So we have our 4 seats, and then the 2 seats next to us. So Sophie and I were there, and these 2 kids are sitting next to us. And they're probably about the same age as when we went to that Lakers-Nuggets game for the playoffs. And I just remember all of those fans being insane and everybody cursing and being like, this is awesome. Like, I want to be here all the time. But those kids, they just reminded me of us. Little, but they were no parents, dude. Just like 15-year-old brother and probably like 8-year-old brother going nuts the entire time. So props to those parents sending their kid, and props to me for not saying some wild things about LeBron James during the game.
Not all heroes wear capes, Ryan. Not all heroes wear capes. So I think looking ahead to this, I think the next series at this point, and it really looks like it's going to be the Timberwolves. As we're recording, They're up about 18 on the Suns.
They're going to win. It's going to be. It might be a sweep.
3. So this feels like a classic, old school. Does great defense beat great offense? Because the Timberwolves have stretches, even against the Suns, who are not as good defensively as the Nuggets are. They have stretches where they just do not score. And they're really good defensively, so it doesn't blow them out of games. But if these games are played in the hundreds consistently, the Timberwolves are hosed. That means that they're having to hit a lot of shots against this team. So how do you feel heading into that potential matchup? Obviously, Minnesota at full strength smoked the Avs, and then the Avs were able to beat them without Towns. I'm sorry, the Nuggets were able to beat them. I'm watching the Avs. So how are you feeling going into this series? Obviously, we both have the Suns coming out of this.
No, I did
not.
No,
you had the Wolves. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the series that makes me the most nervous. I don't think that there's anybody that can physically match up with us as well as the Timberwolves do. They're just long. They're not as offensively talented, but they are long. They've got Naz Reid. They've got Alexander Walker. They have a lot of length on that team outside of obviously Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. So I think they physically match up with us well, but I do think over a 7-game series, they probably just can't quite keep up with what the Nuggets have to offer. So yes, I'm worried. Anthony Edwards is also like coming into something that is not. I don't think that like the casual NBA fan truly realizes how good Anthony Edwards is right now. So it could be a series like those Blazers series where there's a young team going nuclear against a team that's a little bit more seasoned. And I think I'm still confident that we'll win this series, but I think it's going to be a 6 or 7 game.
Yeah, I think that this Wolves team struggles to execute at times on offense, which can be a problem. And they just don't get as consistently as good of shots. And Edwards can at times allow himself to kind of be taken out of the game. I mean,
who do we have guard him?
I mean, he had 13 points. And
who do we have?
You're not going to get those games. Also, I think Edwards teams just for whatever reason don't really seem to bark at the Nuggets. I mean, the Nuggets are not like a big crap talking team, but that doesn't stop, teams from talking stuff to each other. I don't think Edwards is going to be able to kind of fire himself up against a KCP or an AG, or whoever's, going against him. And if he tries to do it against the Murray, then we've seen how that worked out for other players. You do not want to talk stuff to Jamal Murray. He will flambe on the other end. The biggest thing for me, though, here is how is this game going to be officiated? Because if they allow McDaniels to play insanely physical with Jamal Murray, that is bad for the Nuggets. But
I don't think we can rule out
somewhat normal playoff whistle. Then I think he could get in foul trouble very early.
I don't think we can rule out Jaden McDaniels punching a wall and not being available for this series. They look like they might allow the Suns back into this game right now. So I'm hoping against hope that Jaden will find himself a wall to punch, because that was extremely helpful last year when we had to go through the Timberwolves. Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. I do just want to say that, anybody who is going to come at the Nuggets about their road in the playoffs over the last 2 years needs to really reevaluate what they're looking at, because this Lakers team is good. I actually think that they're a little bit better than last year's team, and they can't score against us. Our defense is the Nuggets defense is underrated at this point. They were a top 10 defensive team in the league this year. This is not the Nuggets of old. So I think people do have to reevaluate a little bit about what we're looking at. Anthony Edwards just provides a little bit of a matchup issue to me, because KCP is an unbelievable defender, but he's a little bit too small. And AG is an unbelievable defender, but he's a little bit too slow. So you kind of have to, it's like a Jokic. Anthony Edwards is approaching that, where you have to build your game plan around him. Yeah. It's 100%. If you lose this series as the Nuggets, it's because Anthony Edwards went nuclear. And you just couldn't quite match it. But the other thing I wanted to mention about this series is that for me, it's hard to analyze this because we've seen a C+ version of the Nuggets so far. And this C+ version won't be enough to get it done against the Wolves. But the A+ version and even the A- version of the Nuggets
there is no one in the NBA who can beat that. And so that's what, to me, has made this playoffs a little tougher to handicap with this Nuggets team is we haven't seen the A or A minus from them as much as we did last year during the regular season, where there were some primetime games where, I mean, the Nuggets just brought out the A minus game and blew good teams off the floor, like Clippers, Memphis, when they had Ja and, all their guys healthy, not this year's Memphis. So what do you think, I guess, what's your grade for this Nuggets team so far? Like, what do you think they're playing at? And what encourages you or discourages you about them maybe reaching a higher height?
Yeah, I think it's probably your grade probably isn't wrong. I just think it's way skewed on one end of the floor. So I'd probably give him a C plus, because I think the defense has been unbelievable. I was looking at some offensive numbers, right? Because I was trying to figure out what's wrong with the team, and it's pretty much just borne out in 3-point percentage. That's it. The only thing that we're missing from this entire team is 3-point percentage. They're shooting 27% from three in the playoffs right now. That's going to regress back to the mean. It's just like 30. They're going to shoot 35, 36, 37% from three. They just are. It happens. That's just the way basketball is. They're too good of a team not to do that, especially from three. But the real point of this is, I think what Jokic is doing is sort of getting lost in the offensive struggles because he's not struggling. He's averaging 27, 15, and 8. It's almost 28, 16, and 9. If you round up, it's 28, 16, and 9. And he's doing that while he's shooting 61% from the floor. Or 68% from two, 68% from 2-point range. This is a man who we were just talking about who isn't posting up. And he's shooting 68% from 2-point. He is absolutely unbelievable and on a different planet. And it just doesn't really matter what everybody else is doing. KCP is shooting terribly this series. He's shooting 26% from three. We need those things to increase, but I think the point of this is that the stars are playing really well, and in the playoffs, I feel like at the end of the day, most of these series come down to how well did your stars play, and I believe in Nikola Jokic to play very well. So everybody else just sort of has to find their groove throughout the playoffs. I actually don't, I hope that that Phoenix can make a series of this a little bit. I would love a couple extra days rest. Get some guys in the gym, get them shooting open shots and feeling good. But I don't know. I think that's the defense is what makes me confident, because I think that's replicable. Those others, they have to play a little bit better right now. Aaron Gordon is carrying the rest of the team besides Jamal and Nikola Jokic. So we just need some other people to play a little bit better, and I think we'll be bumping that C+ to a A- by the end of this Timberwolves series.
That would be delightful. Speaking of kind of others, you mentioned him, but I did want to give him his flowers, is Michael Porter Jr. went absolutely nuclear. And, Aaron Gordon was unbelievable, but that game was won with, Michael Porter losing his mind in the second half. Because
he's shooting 48% from three in the playoffs.
Well, but he was aggressive going into his bag to get mid-range. He was going at Rui. It looked like he was very aggressive. It was a weird game 3 because Jokic was like as uninvolved as I've seen him in like a game plan. Like there were just long stretches where he just kind of screened and, absorbed a lot of attention, but like didn't really touch it or do anything special to just, it was Murray
like Jamal and Porter pick and roll, unstoppable. It was as unstoppable as the Jokic and Murray pick and roll. It was really fun to watch, and he looks so much more comfortable on the court.
Yes,
it's sort of baffling, honestly.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to an X factor in that series, I think a Porter from Game 3 of the Lakers makes you have to make a lot of tough choices now if you're the Timberwolves. Because then the obvious thing is to put Cat out there. Because you go, okay, he has the length and he won't, get shot over or whatever. But then the problem is you're unlocking Aaron Gordon because now you're guarding Aaron Gordon with someone undersized and he's going to lurk. And the help can't come off of Porter anymore. So it's just, you're going to get murdered inside. You could maybe take McDaniels off of Murray, but now do you have Mike Conley on Jamal Murray? And
you probably have Anthony Edwards. He's supposedly taking defense more seriously. I do want to bring up the bench guys a little bit, though. Like, I do think that this is a big Peyton Watson series because we're going to need some of that length coming off of the bench. Like, we can't be leaving, Reggie Jackson out there for very long. Like, those minutes are going to get shrunk because this team is big. They're not going to play Mike Conley very much. Like they're gonna go bigger, play Cat at the 5, and technically be playing small because they're playing a 4 at the 5. But they have 5 guys out there that are huge. So I think Peyton Watson's going to be big. I also think Justin Holiday is going to keep sneaking these minutes. He's just kind of reliable. He's good on defense. He gets rebounds when they're necessary. He took a couple of questionable shots early in Game 3, but I like that he feels confident enough in his role on the team to take those shots because he was open. I would have preferred them be later in the shot clock, but he was open. So I think that those bench guys, they're going to need to, like I said, they're going to need to step up. It's not anything drastic. It's just you do better.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating series going forward. Do you think that the Nuggets sweep the Lakers tomorrow? Final prediction.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, I think you saw some quit from the Lakers in Game 3, and then you have
that game was over with aside, 5 minutes
LeBron,
to go.
cryptic.
Dude.
Now we're getting the BS injury report. Like, it's all lining up to this team just going, hey, you know how those reports leaked that you're coming back, Darvin Ham? We're going to get you fired. We're going to lose by 50
You're not coming back.
On ABC in prime time. And let's see you keep your job after this, buddy.
I also think that there is now the Nuggets might deny it because it feels like piling on, but there is a little bit of something where it's like, nah, we don't really like you guys very much. You were sort of standing in our way and you beat us in the bubble and you probably shouldn't have. Like if AD doesn't bank in that miracle shit, like you probably don't. So actually you are the reason we don't already have a championship on top of the one we won last year. So I think there's people underestimate that factor of it too. They always talk about the pride of not getting swept, but there's the pride of being like, nah, you guys can't mess with us.
This just seems like a team that doesn't believe in their coach. And then with this age and all this stuff, there's like no reason that they would.
Their bench is also terrible. like they can't play the bench at all. And you saw it. I mean, you talked about it. They tried to match the minutes with LeBron and AD out there with our bench, and they couldn't make up ground there. It's like I was joking in game 2 in the fourth quarter. There was a Lakers fan behind us, and with like whatever, 11 minutes to go in the fourth, he's like, I'm not worried. I said, you wait till the Grand Rapids Gold gets out the game. You wait. Just you wait until Jokic comes back in this game, and you will be worried then. So I think we're in a very good position, and I think this series is about to make me very stressed.
Yeah, it's there's going to be some unbelievable battles going on here because these teams know each other really well now too. I mean, people talk about how we played the Lakers. Well, we played the Timberwolves in the playoffs too last year. Actually, in one more game than we played the Lakers. And we see the Timberwolves one more time than we see the Lakers.
And Tim Conley was the GM that drafted Nikola Jokic. What are we talking about?
And then built the team.
They have Monte Morris on the. He's playing right now. I'm watching him on the TV. It really is going to piss
me off to root against him, but I'm going to. I was thinking about that.
Honestly,
today,
it makes me.
Honestly, I hope
it makes me feel. It makes me feel a little bit better that Monte's getting real minutes in there because I'm arguably he shouldn't have been getting minutes when he was in our playoff rotation. So
yeah,
I'm happy he's in theirs now. But I do love Monte.
Yeah,
I have his number. Famously.
See if he wants to come on the pod. Talk about throwing the series. We can make some offers.
Yeah, we don't need to. Hey, we don't need any more of that in Denver.
Hey, no. We're trying to get him suspended. We're just being involved in the conversation. Maybe get him out of there. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we covered everything we wanted to with the Broncos and Nuggets here. The Avs got a big victory here. Shout out to the Avs. They're now up 2-1. Came back. They were down 2-1. Headed into that third period and then won 6-2. So great work by the boys.
Did McKinnon score?
Toes and Gorge on our way to collect the cup. Go ahead, boys. That's
Kyle,
all for this week. We'll be back next week.
I want one more question for you. Do you feel more or less confident than you did last time we talked, which was actually, I think, before the series had started? So, do you feel more or less confident?
So, the low point of confidence was in game 2 when the Avs proceeded to get one shot on a 4-minute major and then give up a goal immediately after this. That felt like, to me, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this isn't meant to be. We're going to fall apart. And so then once we put in a bunch of goals again, because quietly the Avs scored 6 in game 1. So it wasn't like a, frustrating kind of what we were talking about of like, oh, this guy stood on his head and we lost 2-1 or something, right? Like they were putting pucks in nets.
I was telling Sophie earlier, she was like, oh, what game is it? I was like, oh, it's game 3. And she was like, is it tied 1-1? I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, I couldn't remember if they won game 1. I was like, no, they got their asses kicked. And she was like, wasn't it 7-6? I was like, well, yeah. I mean, technically, I guess it was, but technically, it did feel like they got that. But you're right. The offensive production has been there all series.
Yeah. So as soon as I felt like, hey, we're going to be able to score 4 or 5 a game, I was like, I don't think Winnipeg can keep up with that. And so then I felt a lot more confident. And now I'm fully on to just hating the cheating Golden Knights that Dom warned us about. Those filthy cheaters are on the horizon, and I, for one, hate it so much. And I hope nothing but success for the Avs in a series against them, because they are, once again, dirty, dirty cheaters.
Yeah, it seems like they're probably going to sweep, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, they're unbelievable because they skirted the cap. But, yeah.
All right. Well, I just wanted your quick little bit of...
I'm confident we're moving past the Jets, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, which I wasn't confident. We were feeling terrible after Dom talked to us.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. So we're all aboard the Gorge and Toes train. So
let's go
thank
Stars.
you. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, spread the word. And thanks to our super producer, Dan the Man, for bringing our hopes up about Bo Nix, and then also producing the podcast and doing all of that. We'll talk to you next week.
Adam Ottavino says bye.
Lucifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.